The doors were taller than any man should be expected to walk through. Arched oak polished to a mirror shine, gilded handles catching the chandelier's light. I stood in front of them with the box in my hands, gift, wrapped with a precision I used to teach my daughter when she was little. Her handwriting still lived in my memory, crooked bows on Christmas mornings, clumsy tape lines on birthday surprises. Now, I held the gift alone, my reflection trembling across the polished brass. A uniformed attendant looked at me as if I'd lost my way. "Guests are already inside, sir." His tone carried the unspoken truth: "You don't belong here." I adjusted my tea, a navy one I'd bought just for today, and swallowed the tightness in my throat. Beyond those doors, my only daughter was beginning a life I had built for her brick by brick, paycheck by paycheck. Every dollar of this wedding, every imported flower, every chandelier crystal, my calloused hands had paid for them. I stepped forward, but the doors opened before I touched them. She appeared like a vision from a magazine spread. Ivory gown flowing, her hair swept into the kind of perfection that took a team of stylists. For a breathless second, all I could see was the child who once danced barefoot in our kitchen, singing off key while standing on my work boots. My chest ached at the memory. Then her eyes found me, cold, calculated. "Dad, what are you doing here?" The room behind her was filled with laughter and crystal, music and champagne. Every head seemed to turn at once. 100 strangers in suits and gowns froze to watch a construction worker with a gift box standing at the threshold. "I came to see you, sweetheart. To wish you happiness." My voice betrayed me. Smaller than I meant, stripped of the authority I'd built across 3 decades. Her groom, Michael, appeared at her side, tuxedo pressed to perfection, his hand sliding possessively over hers. His smile was the kind that had closed deals before he'd ever worked for them. "Mr. Clark," he said smoothly, "there must be some mistake. This is an immediate family-only event." Immediate family. The words hit harder than any hammer I'd ever swung. I stared at my daughter. Immediate family. 28 years of scraped knees, late-night science projects, braces I worked overtime to afford, erased by one polished sentence. Emily's chin lifted, a hint of embarrassment cracking through her bridal glow. "Dad, please. Don't make a scene." The silence around us thickened, broken only by the clink of glass somewhere in the room. My heart slowed to a dull, heavy rhythm. I set the gift box on a nearby table between untouched flutes of champagne, my hand lingering on the bow I'd tied just hours ago. "You're right," I whispered. "I don't belong here." And with that, I turned, each step toward the night outside heavier than the last, the music fading into nothing but the echo of boots against marble. The night air met me like a slap, crisp and unwelcoming. My breath clouded in the cold, but inside my chest it burned hot: anger, humiliation, grief, each one fighting for dominance. The parking lot stretched wide, a gallery of imported machines lined in perfect rows. Black SUVs with tinted glass, luxury sedans gleaming under floodlights. At the farthest corner, my truck waited, an honest, scarred thing with steel ribs and the smell of concrete baked into its leather seats. That truck had carried lumber, drywall, and once, a 5-year-old girl with a pink backpack who'd insisted on riding to school like Daddy's little foreman. I dropped into the driver's seat, shut the door, and for a long while, just sat there. The music from the ballroom was muffled now, faint through the thick glass, like a party happening in another lifetime. My phone lit up on the -6 missed calls from my lawyer. A property dispute, something about contracts and deadlines. But that wasn't why I reached for it. My thumb hovered over another name, one I hadn't touched in months, maybe years. First National Bank, Business Services. I didn't press it, not yet. Instead, I let my mind wander back to her. Emily had been 3 when cancer took Sarah. A child with curls and wide eyes too young to understand death. "Daddy, where's Mommy?" She'd asked each night, and I'd learned to answer with stories. Long, winding tales until she drifted to sleep on my chest. I swore then that she would never feel the lack of anything, not food, not clothes, not love. So I worked. God, how I worked. 25 years of pouring foundations, framing houses, laying tile with hands that cracked from the cold. And every dollar I made, every profit, seemed to disappear into Emily's needs, her dreams, her demands: private school, the braces, the BMW she begged for on her 16th birthday, Northwestern University, study abroad programs, vacations, and finally, tonight this wedding. And she had looked at me with eyes that once trusted me for everything, and said, Don't make a scene. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel until the leather creaked. I should have driven away. Should have let her world of crystal and orchids and men in tailored suits spin on without me. But instead, I reached again for the phone, this time steady, deliberate. The name on the screen glowed in the dark cab. A single call, a string of numbers, and I could dismantle every inch of the fantasy I had built for her. I didn't dial, not yet. Instead, I stared at my reflection in the windshield, the venue lights behind me casting shadows across my face. A father who had given everything, standing on the edge of finally taking something back. I leaned back in the seat and closed my eyes, letting the silence settle heavy. Inside, a string quartet played on. Outside, I began to decide. The decision came not as a flash of rage, but as something colder, like steel sliding into place. A lifetime of patience, of balancing ledgers and stretching budgets, sharpened into a single truth. I had funded every brick of that ballroom, and I could take it back. My thumb pressed the call. First National Bank Business Services. This is Patricia speaking. My voice surprised me with its calm. This is James Clark. Account number 7794512. I need to halt all payments issued for today's event. There was a pause, then the polite efficiency of a keyboard clattering. Venue rental, catering deposit, floral arrangements. Yes. Every wedding, related transaction. Effective immediately. When she confirmed, when the numbers rolled off her tongue, and the authorization codes left my lips, it felt less like revenge and more like closing a ledger. Balance, at last. I ended the call and set the phone in the cup-holder, the glow of its screen fading as if it too had drawn a breath of relief. Inside, the orchestra played on, oblivious. But the ripples had begun. The first sign came minutes later. Through the windshield, I saw a white van pull into the service entrance. Bellingham Blooms. Their logo, painted in elegant script, gleamed as the florist and her assistants climbed out with plastic containers. Not filled with flowers, empty, waiting to reclaim them. I leaned forward, elbows braced on the steering wheel watching. The doors opened. They walked inside, shoulders squared, their faces businesslike. Through the tall windows, I caught a glimpse of orchids lifted, table arrangements stripped bare. Guests turned, confusion bending into murmurs. A small, wicked satisfaction stirred inside me. For once, it wasn't me carrying the weight of spectacle. Then, another van, catering this time. Men in black aprons rolled carts straight through the front doors. Their movements were brisk, professional. Serving stations covered in white cloth. Trays whisked away before entrees could be served. Emily's silhouette stood frozen in the center of it all. Her gown glimmered under the chandeliers, but her face, the face I had memorized over bedtime stories and science fairs, was pale, almost childlike. Guests whispered, some with pity, others with thinly veiled judgment. Michael stormed across the floor, his voice rising above the chaos. But even his sharp authority faltered when the head caterer held up the clipboard. Payment revoked. It was happening exactly as I'd imagined. Except for one thing. I thought it would feel like justice. But as I watched my daughter clutch at the altar flowers, begging the florist to wait, something twisted in my chest. Her laugh, the one I had worked overtime to afford braces for, was gone. In its place was panic. For the first time that night, I wondered if I had gone too far. The ballroom that once glowed like a kingdom now unraveled in real time. Flowers disappearing, plates left bare, music silenced mid-note. And in the parking lot, I sat inside my battered truck, torn between grim satisfaction and a father's aching guilt. Because for all her cruelty, she was still my little girl, and I had just set fire to her fairy tale. The first ring came before the florist's van had even pulled away. My daughter's name glowed on the screen. Emily. I didn't answer. Through the windshield, I watched her pacing in the entryway, gown dragging across marble like a torn banner. She pressed her phone to her ear, then pulled it away, staring at the screen as if disbelief alone could will me to pick up. The second ring followed within minutes. Then the third. Inside, the reception had collapsed into a theater of whispers. Guests abandoned champagne flutes for gossip. The string quartet packed instruments into black cases. Michael barked orders, but his voice carried the brittle edge of a man losing control. His polished confidence, so sharp hours ago, now frayed under the eyes of an audience that smelled scandal. Emily's voice finally reached me, not through the glass, but through voicemail. Dad, something's wrong with the payments. There's been a mistake. Call me back immediately. A mistake. as if the past 28 years of sacrifice could be filed under clerical error. Another ring. Another message. This isn't funny anymore. Vendors are leaving. Guests are staring. Please, just call me back. I closed my eyes. Every word cut, but not the way she intended. Not with shame. With memory. Her voice when she was 5. Read me another story, Daddy. Her grin at 12 after the spelling bee. Did you see me win? Her joy at 16. Hands gripping the wheel of her first car. Everyone else drives BMWs, Dad, please. I had said yes. Always yes. And tonight, she had said no. No to my presence. No to my love. No to the man who had built the foundation she stood on. The fourth voicemail arrived trembling raw. Please, Dad. I don't understand what's happening. Michael's family is asking questions I can't answer. I need you. Those last 3 words hung in the cab like smoke. I need you. I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, torn between rage and the ancient instinct to protect. Through the tall windows, I saw Michael's father lean toward him, lips tight, hands slicing the air in a gesture of reprimand. I knew that look, the look of men for whom reputation was currency. Emily clutched Michael's arm, her gown crumpling under her fists, but he stood rigid, his face stone. Already, cracks in their new marriage were visible. My phone rang again. Emily's picture, her graduation day smile, her cap tilted crooked, flashed across the screen. I imagined her now, the same smile shattered, begging through tears. The choice weighed heavier than any beam I'd ever lifted. Answer. And I was the rescuer once more, returning her to the gilded cage of entitlement. Ignore. And I left my only child to drown in the lesson she had forced me to teach. The phone kept ringing. Inside, her silhouette pressed against the glass, searching the lot, searching for me. For a moment, I almost opened the door, almost stepped out, almost forgave too soon. But I stayed in the shadows, watching my daughter's fairy tale unravel thread by thread, knowing the next decision would break us both, or finally build something real. The 15th call lit the cab like a flare. I stared at her name for 4 rings before my thumb betrayed me and pressed accept. Silence, then her breath, shaking, uneven. Dad, finally. What have you done? The flowers are gone. The food. Her words cracked. You've destroyed everything. I let her panic wash through the speaker before I spoke. My voice came out low, steady, almost foreign to me. I didn't destroy anything, Emily. I just stopped paying for it. On the other end, muffled voices, Michael's sharp tone, accusing, interrogating. She covered the phone, arguing with him, then came back, smaller. You can't just walk away like this. This is my wedding day. I laughed once, bitter, empty. Your wedding day. Paid in full by the man you told to leave at the door. Her sob broke through. I didn't mean it like that. I was embarrassed. Michael's family. Michael's family. I cut in, sharper now. When was the last time you cared about this family? The man who raised you. The one who buried your mother while teaching you how to ride a bike. The one who built every piece of your life with his own hands. She didn't answer, just breathing, ragged. Tell me, Emily. I pressed, my own voice shaking now. When was the last time you thanked me for anything? Silence stretched, long and raw. Finally, a whisper. I don't remember. The truth split me open. I turned away from the ballroom windows, because if I saw her face just then, I might cave. I've spent nearly $1 million making sure you never felt the weight of the world, I said, my throat tight. And tonight, for the first time, I let you feel it. Do you understand now? Her sobs answered before her words did. I understand. I was cruel. I treated you like a bank, not a father. Please, don't leave me like this. I'll change. I'll do anything. For a moment, I almost broke. I saw her as a little girl again, in pink pajamas, tugging at my sleeve for one more story. I heard her 8-year-old voice whisper, "You're the best daddy in the world." But then Michael's voice sliced through the line, harsh and cold. Emily, stop begging. He's not going to save you. And that, more than anything, decided it for me. My chest burned as I spoke the words I had never imagined saying. Emily, I love you. But love without respect is nothing. Tonight, you will decide whether you want me in your life as a father, or whether I remain just the man who signed the checks. Her sobbing quieted, replaced by stunned silence. Then, softly, what do I have to do? I closed my eyes, tears breaking free. Grow up. That's all I've ever wanted. The line went dead quiet, except for her breathing, heavy and hollow, and in that moment, through grief, through fury, through love stretched raw, I felt the shift, not a victory, not revenge, but the first crack in the walls my daughter had built between us. Dawn crept across the horizon, washing the city in pale gold. I hadn't slept. My truck sat in the same corner of the parking lot, dew gathering on the windshield, the ballroom behind me now silent as a mausoleum. They had all left hours ago, the guests, the musicians, the groomsmen with their crumpled tuxes. Michael too. I saw him stride out, jaw tight, phone pressed to his ear, never once looking back. His father's car followed minutes later. Only Emily remained. She had slipped outside sometime after midnight, barefoot, gown grey at the hem from dragging through asphalt. She sat on the curb under the floodlight, head in her hands. For the first time since she was a child, she looked small. I watched from the shadows. My hands itched to open the door, to gather her up and say it would be okay. But I stayed still. This wasn't a wound I could bandage for her. It was one she had carved herself. At last, as the first birds began to stir, she lifted her head. Her eyes were red, makeup smeared, but her gaze was clear. She turned, scanning the lot until she found me. Our eyes locked across the distance. She stood, hesitated, then crossed barefoot over the cold pavement. Every step seemed heavier than the last, like a prisoner walking toward judgment. When she reached my window, she didn't speak. She just pressed her palm to the glass, trembling, as though testing if I was still real. I rolled the window down. The night air between us carried the faint scent of wilted orchids. "Dad," she whispered, her voice raw, stripped of all the polish she had borrowed from Michael's world. "I don't deserve forgiveness. But I need you." The words hung between us, fragile as spun glass. I studied her face. The arrogance gone, the child still buried beneath the wreckage. And for the first time in years, I saw not the woman she pretended to be, but my daughter. "I can't give you the life you thought you wanted," I said softly, "but I can give you a chance to build one worth living. No shortcuts, no handouts, just the truth and the work it takes." She nodded, tears spilling freely now. "Then teach me. Please." I reached out, my hand covering hers on the doorframe. Her skin was cold, but the contact steadied us both. The sun broke fully then, spilling light over the empty lot, catching in her hair. For a moment, we stood like that. Two silhouettes against a broken fairy tale, father and daughter suspended between ruin and renewal. I knew it wouldn't be simple. There would be backsliding, resentment, nights when she would curse me again. But in her eyes, I saw the first fragile spark of something truer than apology, the will to change. I turned the ignition, the truck rumbling awake. "Get in, Emily," I said. She opened the passenger door, gathered her torn gown, and climbed inside. For the first time in a long while, we drove forward together.